And tonight on PM Express, a conversation about the biggest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress's internal elections, as it warms up to this weekend's national executives elections. It's been heated, as you may have followed, especially for the chairmanship contest, which has incumbent General Secretary Aisha Ibrahim and the incumbent chairman Samuel Ampofo, and there's been accusations and counter-accusations among these two figures. Today, we are hearing that the NDC General Secretary Aisha Ibrahim says the party did not have a case during the 2020 election petition. You may also have followed the aftermath of its just-ended youth and women organizer elections, which was characterized by violence. Broja Jemfi, aspirant of the youth organizer slot, who lost to George Opariado, has today indicated he's going to court to injunct the inauguration process of his contender. If you've been on social media, you will notice that there's been quite some banter between Opariado and some supposed supporters of Broja Jemfi. All of these in the lead up to the big elections this Saturday. Will the party survive after the seeming do-or-die internal elections? What does this mean for the party's fortunes come 2024? Let's see who is vying for what and what chances they will. So let's start with the aspirant, the national executive positions, and here are the guys. But you see these two people, the election is centered on them. Johnson Aisha Ibrahim, incumbent General Secretary, Samuel Ampofo, chairman of the party, both of them vying. Ampofo seeks to retain his position as chairman. Aisha Ibrahim seeks to go higher to the chairmanship position. General Secretary, you know these three faces: Elvis Efriankar, Fifi Kwete, and Dr. Peter Boamotokono. Let's look at the just ended youth and women organizer elections, and which has been the talk of town since it ended. So it was the youth organizer position was between George Opariado and Broja Jemfi, and you know that George Opariado won with 533 votes, Broja Jemfi 508 votes. Now, the election results of women organizer, it was actually led by Dr. Hannah Bisiu. You know that face, you know that name, with 433 votes. Now, Broja Jemfi has been making some allegations after the elections, and he says the delegates list was manipulated to favor the incumbent. And he said there was violation of express decisions and others of courts and directives of the NDC. And he's advising that the party must take concrete steps to ensure that rules and regulations of the party are respected and are not skewed to the advantage of anybody. And of course, he says he's going to court to challenge the results. Opariado, on the other hand, has also debunked the allegations. He said he won the polls on merit, and he's claiming of the claims of scheming disagreements over delegates' lists to rig election, he says, are unfounded. And this evening, there's also something that has got many talking. Aisha Ibrahim, who is vying for the chairmanship position, and he's slotting it out seriously with Samuel Ampofo. He's accusing Samuel Ampofo of being anti-Muhammad. This is a serious allegation. He's also claiming that the NDC had no concrete evidence in the 2020 election petition, and for that, the NPP is asking the NDC to actually apologize to them for wasting their time. Thankfully, on this panel tonight, I've been joined by one of the aspirants for the chairmanship position. He's also the incumbent chairman of the NDC, Chairman Samuel Ampofo. He'll be joining us, and hopefully we'll get some answers to some of these allegations. Yunus Hussaini is a senior member of the NDC, and he's a former member of parliament for Tamale Central. Kwame Asa-Asante, Dr. Kwame Asa-Asante is a political science lecturer. He's also director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Let's have a conversation after this break. Welcome back to PM Express. We are looking at the NDC's elections, the bigger one coming off this weekend. Of course, we'll be talking about the issues, the fallouts from last weekend's election. And thank you so much, Mr. Samuel Ampofo for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Asasante, and thank you, Nusa Hussaini. Let me start with you, Mr. Ampofo. First, my deepest condolences for the loss of your mother. I know it's been tough, especially combining this with your campaign, but generally, how has it been for you?
Thank you very much. It's been a very, very difficult situation for me, especially at the time my campaign was picking. My mother suddenly passed on, and I had to sacrifice a lot of the campaign time to undertake some arrangements because of the death of my mother. Therefore, after the observation of the 1 week ceremony, I took off the next day, and I have never set my foot back in Accra or Koforidua since I left. And for the past 3 weeks, I have been going around the country, visiting regions, and then campaigning in constituencies. So far, my campaign has taken me from the eastern region to Savannah to upper northeastern region to upper east to upper west to northern region. From northern region, we came down to Bono East. From Bono East, we came to Bono. And from Bono, we went to Ahafo. From Ahafo, we had to drive all the way to central region to spend 3 days in the central region and also join the women and youth conference. And then from the afternoon of that Saturday, I took off to Volta region, specifically Hawaii. And then on the Sunday, we were in Oti region, and we managed to finish all the 8 constituencies in Oti region, and did also some 4 constituencies in Volta region. Came back at dawn and left straight to Ashanti region, where we have done, in 3 days, done 47 constituencies. And our campaign came to an end a few hours ago at Konongo, where we met the 3 constituencies in Konongo. And so officially, I have ended the campaign tour of all the 16 regions. And we have now set off to Accra to wind up the preparation towards the National Congress. So it's been extremely difficult. Sometimes we sleep around 3 a.m. and start by 7 a.m. the next day to continue visiting constituencies and regions. However, the reception has been overwhelming. My campaign message has been received by the delegates, and they have appreciated the kind of work that I have done for them as a national chairman for the past 4 years. And they have assured me that they will renew my mandate to continue the unfinished agenda that I set myself to achieve.
I can see that a lot of work has gone into this campaign. So your biggest contender, actually, who is also the General Secretary of the party, Aisha Ibrahim, says you are not fit to lead the party because your 4 years even didn't save the NDC from coming to power. It led the NDC back to opposition. How do you react to this?
I don't want to react to anybody. I want to concentrate on the campaign that I'm doing. I have been the national chairman for the past 4 years. When I took over the party, the NDC had lost the election in 2016 by nearly 1 million margin, and we've lost about 53 seats in parliament. The 4 years that was given to me and my team to lead the party, we managed in 2020 elections to appreciate our votes from about 4.4 million to almost 6.3 million. We managed to increase our parliamentary seats from 106 to 137. And for the first time in the history of our fourth Republican dispensation, the NDC as an opposition party has been able to produce a Speaker of Parliament. This is unprecedented. And if this is an indication of the fact that I haven't done anything, then I will say to the contrary, that myself and the team that were elected into office are provided the strategic leadership that has repositioned the NDC party, rebranded the NDC party, made the party more attractive, and almost made the party a party of choice as we go into the 2024 elections. And for me, I think it's something that all of us must be proud of. I think it's a record that we have made for ourselves. My objective when I took over the party as its chairman and subsequently as the leader of the party was to lead the party to form government. And so what I have not been able to achieve under the 4 years was the fact that we could not form a government, even though we believe that we never lost the 2020 elections.
But that's...
So going forward, my objective is to put the pieces together, is to sharpen the rough edges, and then ensure that going into 2024 elections, our aim will be nothing short of a victory, a convincing victory that will enable us to form the next government and manage to put our policies and programs in place in order to reverse the deteriorating situation that we find ourselves in as a nation.
Well, that's the biggest allegation that your contender, Sedun Ketia, has made against you today, talking about the 2020 elections. He says you've been too bossy. You always take decisions even and don't consider how he feels. And that's why he wants to be chairman, so that he can take the final decisions. And he adds that during the 2020 elections, your party had no case, but you insisted that you must go to court.
Please, I don't want to respond. If you want me to talk about my preparation and my chances of winning the election, I will dwell on that. I don't want to use this platform to react to any issue that has been raised by any of my competitors.
It's a big allegation that he's making.
I am not prepared to respond to any allegation. If you want me to talk about my preparation and what I have done, the message I've sent to the delegates, and the fact that I'm very hopeful that the delegates will return me to come back and continue the work that I'm doing, I'm prepared to go to that tangent. But I'm not prepared at all to respond to any allegation.
Well, on Saturday, the biggest contest will happen. Your just ended youth elections actually was characterized by violence. And I mean, there are so many people who were dissatisfied. There's been accusations and attacks on persons. I mean, one of the contestants, Broja Jemfi, for instance, has indicated he will go to court. How is the party dealing with this?
As I speak to you now, I have been out of the jurisdiction for almost 3 weeks. But there are systems that have been put in place to ensure that the party runs whilst we do our campaign. And so there is a central campaign planning committee chaired by Honorable Alex Segbefia. I have no doubt about his capacity and the capacity of the various committees that have been put in place to manage the election. If there are any fallout from the youth conference and the women conference, it is regrettable. I wasn't there. I didn't witness the violence because when I opened the conference, the place was very peaceful and very orderly. And I left there to continue my campaign. And so whatever might have happened, perhaps would have happened at the time that I was not there and cannot make any comment on it. But I believe that the system that has been put in place will address the fallout and ensure that we manage to put the pieces together and ensure that we build towards party unity and party cohesion. Because elections always have winners and losers. And at the end of the day, how we are able to manage and bring everybody on board is what is expected of a party like ours. And I believe that we have the men and women who are capable of bringing the situation under control and bringing the party together.
Now, this is the advice coming from, one of the national youth organizers who says he's going to court. He says that to avoid violence, the party shouldn't change the album and the rules for the elections in the last minutes. And those are some of the issues he cited for his anger to go to court. As we speak, have you received the album? And are you expecting any last minute changes?
I don't understand that the meaning of that statement. What I do know is that the delegates list has been made available. There was a meeting today. My representatives went to that meeting. We'll look at the list, and if there are any challenges, we'll address it. But so far, I don't have anything to say because I've just ended my campaign in the Ashanti region and on my way back. And I can comment on these issues when I'm confronted with the reality on the ground.
Well, I know that before these elections, you were faced with some of these grievances. That's why some of the elections were postponed. How do you address such grievances? Because so that you ensure that in the coming elections, this doesn't recur.
I think the party put in a very robust internal mechanism to resolve some of these situations. And I want to doff my hat for the Secretary Committee, Alhaji Hudi Aya, Honorable, the number of people that constituted that committee. Honorable Agbeshi, our former MP for Ashaman and former Deputy Chief Whip in Parliament. I think they've done a yeoman's job. They've managed to handle most of the challenges that came their way. And so if there are any outstanding issues between now and election day on Saturday, I believe that we have competent men and women to handle this and ensure that we have a very peaceful Congress on Saturday.
Certainly one of your members going to court will not augur well. What advice do you have for him?
Well, I will advise that whatever grievances that exist, let us resort to the internal processes of resolving this conflict and misunderstanding before we jump onto the court. I always believe that jumping into the court on matters that could be resolved internally are not always the best approach. And so, coming back to Accra, some of us will talk to the youth and will urge them to let us use the internal and lay down mechanisms to resolve whatever misunderstanding that exists. Because for me, I don't think that rushing to the court is always the best option.
So, come Saturday, we will find out who wins the chairmanship race. I know how much you've put in. What should we expect at the executives' elections? And why should the delegates vote for you?
Well, the delegates should vote for me because I have labored for this party all my life. 30 years out of the 60 years of my existence on this earth, I have used it to serve the NDC. I've served in various capacities. I have been the longest serving national organizer of the party. I have been a director of elections of the party. I have been a vice chairman of the party. And I eventually became the national chairman of the party. My tenure has witnessed a number of restructuring of the party in terms of the way we do things. We undertook a retreat across the country. We identified some of the structural deficiencies within the party, and we set ourselves to do a reorganization of the party that led to the various elections from the branches through the constituencies to the regions and then at the national level. Today, I can say without any fear of doubt that the base of the party, the foundation of the party, the basic unit of the party, which is the branch, has been properly anchored. And all branches, over 40,000 branches in the country, have had very successful elections and have had competent people elected to man all the branches across the length and breadth of this country. We've been able to put systems that have ensured that the party became very attractive We've been able to attract professionals into the party. The Pro Forum is growing in leaps and bounds, and all shades of professionals have come to join the party. We've been able to establish a legal directorate and have been able to put together a number of lawyers who have come together as NDC lawyers to defend the party anytime the need arises. We have more than 300 lawyers who have formed the NDC Lawyers Association. This is something that has never happened in the party before. So several things have happened to us, and I believe that our party is stronger than I came to meet it 2018. The party's output in terms of our election results, in fact, if you want to measure the performance of any political party or a politician, we use numbers as indicators to measure the performance of the party or the politician that is seeking re-election or is seeking to be elected into power. And I'm saying that all the indicators are very positive for me ever since I took over the party as national chairman. I have introduced so many novel things, including the fact that today the NDC has, been able to put in systems that have ensured that we have a solid database for the party. By the click of the button, every information that you need in the party now is available. We have developed electronic ID cards, and the party has virtually moved so many of our things from manual to electronic. And so, in keeping with the changing environment that we find ourselves in, the party is in a good position to deliver results in any subsequent elections. So I believe that under my tenure, a lot has been done. We've been able to build strong party unity and party cohesion. It is the first time under my administration that we went into flag bearership elections, and in less than 1 week time, all the 6 aspirants who contested President John Dramani Mahama came and pledged their loyalty, allegiance, and support, to the extent that one of the contestants became the campaign manager for our flag bearer in the 2020 elections. This doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It takes visionary leadership. It takes, well-planned and strategic leadership to achieve what we have achieved. The NDC has become a very solid brand today. The NDC is a party of choice, and Ghanaians are yearning for the NDC to come back again as a result of the way we have branded the party and we have managed the affairs of the party. So I have no doubt at all that the delegates across the length and breadth of this country, having assessed my performance for the past 4 years and having listened to the policy proposals that I put across during my campaign tour, will not have any difficulty at all in giving me the nod and retaining me to continue my unfinished agenda as the national chairman of the great NDC party.
Mr. Ampofo, so having done all this work, don't you think it's a fine opportunity to actually tell your side of the story to your supporters? I'm talking about the allegations made against you today.
I have told those who
could send a wrong signal to your supporters.
I have told those who ought to know, they are delegates. Internal party matters are not discussed in public. We all swore oath of allegiance and oath of secrecy. There are some other issues that are top party issues that are discussed at the national executive and functional executive level that are not supposed to be discussed in public like the way you are asking me. And as a leader and chairman of the party, I will restrain myself from responding to some of these issues. I have used the appropriate forum, meeting the delegates, meeting our former appointees, meeting council of elders across the regions, meeting our regional executives, and meeting those who matter in the party when it comes to matters like this. And I've discussed it exhaustively with them. And they know the position of the party, and they know what I stand for and what the truth is. I do not think that this is a platform for me to come and trade, accusation and counter-accusations. It doesn't help us as a party. We need to keep party unity and party cohesion. We need to ensure that things that are supposed to be discussed within the circles of the party are left to be discussed within those confines, and not to come and take platforms like this and discuss internal party matters in public. I will not do that. I will not engage in that one. And I believe that those who matter will come and vote on Saturday. And I've explained myself sufficiently to them. And they understand the situation, they understand the issues, and they will not have any difficulty at all in voting for me to continue to remain as the chairman of the party.
Mr. Ampofo, I wish you all the best this Saturday, and thanks so much for your time. So you have the chairman of the NDC who's vying to retain his position and is fighting it off with Asiedu Nketia. I've been joined also by Dr. Aisha Asante. He's a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. Inusa Fuseni is a senior member of the NDC. He's also joined me. Dr. Aisha Asante, I'm sure you've been monitoring the conversation. Now, for a party in a position seeking to win power in the next elections, what do you make of all that have been happening in the party? Right, so we've lost Dr. Aisha Asante there. Let me bring in Inusa Fuseni. Mr. Inusa Fuseni, thank you so much for your time.
Aisha, can you hear me?
Okay, so Dr. Aisha Asante is still on. Dr. Aisha Asante, are you on? Right, so we'll try and bring him back. But Mr. Inusa Fuseni, there's been accusations and counter-accusations at all levels as the party faces the biggest contest this weekend. You must be worried as a senior member of the party.
Clearly, what is happening consequent upon the outcome of the youth elections held at Cape Coast is quite worrying. And I expect that victors in the election in Cape Coast would be magnanimous enough and quite moderate in their celebration of their victory. And those who lost will be gracious enough to accept defeat. I know that when elections are held and people lose elections, they have some wounded egos and matters of emotions can erupt into nasty, ugly utterances. And the burden is on those who have won to reach out to those who have lost. We are into this game together. We are into this fight together. The bigger enemy in this whole equation is to put ourselves together to be able to face the MPP in 2024 and dislodge them from power in such a way that our win will be convincing. What is happening presently is pursuant to the Constitution and the Constitution of the NDC and the Constitution of Ghana. The Constitution of Ghana requires in Article 55 that political parties be run along democratic lines. It means that people should be given an opportunity to determine who leads them. And we have set a 4-year cycle in between national elections to be able to put together our leadership. And just like national elections, just like parliamentary primaries or any kind of elections, when people are given an opportunity to sell themselves, to be able to win the confidence and mandate of the people to represent them, egos can be bruised. And when they are bruised, we expect that they will accept the outcome of the results if there is nothing untoward in the conduct of the election. So I'm quite worried. We should not dissipate our energies in fighting each other. We should rather reach out each other to be able to put ourselves in the better position to fight election 2024.
Should we take what happened this weekend as a dress rehearsal to the bigger event?
Well, you are entitled to think so, but I think that what happened in Cape Coast offers useful lessons to the planning committee to put in place mechanisms to forestall a reoccurrence of what happened in Cape Coast. And I believe that the planning committee and the Congress Committee have learned useful lessons from what has happened in Cape Coast.
Let me bring in Dr. Asante, and hopefully the line works better right now. For a party in opposition, in fact, it's the biggest opposition party seeking to win power in the next elections, because the NPP says it's breaking the 8. And if you want to take power from them, that means you need to stop the NPP from breaking the 8. What do you make of all that is happening in the NDC right now? What do you make of Dr. Asante? Yes, Dr. Asante, you are on.
Yeah.
You are on.
Yeah, good evening, Aisha.
If you have your television on, can you lower the volume for me, because it's okay. Can you lower the volume for me, because it's echoing. Dr. Asante.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. So I'm asking you what you make of all that has been happening in the NDC, especially what the fallout from this weekend's elections. This is a party that is looking at wresting power from the NPP. The NPP that says it's breaking the 8. What do you make of all of that?
I think it is a good call on their part to energize their supporters to wrestle power from the NPP. But you cannot do this when we look at the ugly spectacle of what happened at the weekend. All right? How do you look for power when there is chaos and all that within an activity that will bring leaders up to come and vote for those who will lead the party eventually for the exercise of wrestling power? So I will urge the NDC leadership to sit down, plan properly, and make sure that the big task ahead, which is a Saturday one, will be incident-free. This also must also go to the party faithful, that you can claim to be supporting a party and at the same time doing certain taking certain decisions or actions that undermine the credibility, the entire process that your party is putting in place. I think the party's interest is bigger than any other interest. So if there are difficulties, there are challenges, I will urge people to use the internal structures within to be able to address their concerns and then forge ahead to make sure that their party wins power. Let us remember that the ultimate aim of every political party is to win power and form the next government. And you can only do this when you have put your house in order. So I expect them, that is the leadership of the NDC, to be up and doing, and then make sure that what occurred last weekend doesn't repeat itself for this Saturday.
Well, let's talk about the... Go ahead, Dr. Asante.
I know that it is not easy to organize elections, but I also believe that when you apply yourself to it, the process, and then you get everybody, you get things explained to people. They follow the process, and then they are part and parcel of it, and they are prepared to defend it. And that is the spirit that is behind every political party. And I think that this is not the first time the NDC has faced some challenges, but all the time they are able to rise up to the occasion, like any other party in Ghana. Once you have a mass party, there are some of these challenges that will obviously come to the fore. But that is why we have party and its machinery. And part of the machinery is to address conflicts and other violent-related issues so that the party machinery moves to full gear.
Dr. Asante, let's look at the biggest contest for the NDC this weekend and the fierce contest between Samuel Ampofo and Aisha Ibrahim vying for the CEO position of the party. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. And for a party wanting to take power from the NPP, the governing party, with all the power and resources available to them, who amongst the two do you think the party needs at this critical moment?
Let us be honest to ourselves that the two gentlemen are materials worth considering for the party. They've all excelled throughout their years in the party as party faithful, and they've worked very hard to bring the party to where it is. I have no doubt in my mind that they stand tall as people who have contributed immensely towards the survival of the party. Nobody can, show this thing under the carpet. It is an obvious truth. But what we are seeing among them, that in terms of, disagreement, a lot of bickering and all that in their camp doesn't bode well for them as giants within the party. I expect them that whatever differences between them, they must do well to, ameliorate the situation by talking to their supporters and making sure that the only way that they can win power is through the message that they churn out that will resonate with those who are going to elect them, and that they will have strategy that will be, in tune with the legal processes that the party has put in place. And of course, they'll be able to come out with manifestos that will address the lingering challenges within this country in general, and then specific interests of the party. And of course, their followers and all that. Once they get these things right in place, they are home and dry. So the bickering, the rancor, the attacks on each other, to the best of my knowledge, it doesn't bode well for them at all. And that I expect them to talk to their supporters and then go to the election, and then let us have genuine contest. All right. Democracy, the beauty of democracy is that, yes, you have different ideas and different interests, but at the end of the day, you are prepared to work within your party and make sure that the ultimate aim of your party is to win power and form the next government. This is the goal that should occupy the attention of the two gentlemen. And I think they are not oblivious of this fact. They know this as a fact, but that they must walk the talk of peace so that at the end of the day, when they go to the contest, it is an undeniable fact that one of them will win, and that whoever loses the election is prepared to accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game, and then continue the marching forward of the party so as to prepare it in a position that will give the party the color, the strength, and the energy to battle the 2024 election the way it ought to be.
Mr. Aisha, let me ask you this. With what's going on, especially with the General Secretary of the party revealing such sensitive information and it getting to the reach of your biggest contender, the NPP, are you not worried that it may mar your chances of halting the breaking of the 8?
Nothing, Aisha, nothing will stand in the way of the NDC in winning election 2024. Nothing, absolutely nothing. I do not also think that the communication of Honorable Aisha Ibrahim, the General Secretary, to party delegates was intended for public consumption. What he was seeking to do was probably to explain to the party delegates why we are where we are, why we could not win the elections, why our case was not made out very well in court. And so the fact that it leaked is very, very unfortunate. But Aisha Ibrahim ought to have known that it will leak, because in campaigning for a position in the party or in government or to lead the country, I mean, people deliberately, intentionally plant others to be able to see what the opponent is doing. So he ought, and our leaders ought to be circumspect. But let me backtrack and say, as a party, we had always known that these two giants, if they contest each other, we will definitely have fallouts. And so that's why there was an initial attempt to try to see whether they could be reconciled. Chairman Ampofo spoke about what the team achieved during their term in office. That team included the General Secretary of the party, who is now contesting him for the flag bearership. So there is no doubt that that team had only some few weaknesses, and we all knew of those weaknesses. We had had opportunity and occasion to point out those weaknesses. Now, the fact that Aisha Ibrahim has decided to contest for the chairmanship position forces members of the party and delegates of the party in particular to do an individual assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of these two gentlemen. Aisha, you are reminded that 4 people are contesting for the chairmanship slots. 4 people. Why are we narrowing it down to 2? Because 1, those 2 persons are giants in the party, and they all have something to contribute towards the success of the party. And nobody wants to lose either of them. But only one person can be chairman. And so, as a delegate, you have to look at them individually. Look at their strengths and weaknesses and see whether in the present state of the party, who will be better positioned to lead us to the promised land. And I think that is what we will see on Saturday. The delegates are going to make a choice on the individual strengths and weaknesses of these 2 candidates. Not because they have put up themselves for leadership position, but because they have all through their lives played great roles in consolidating the NDC and promoting its progress in this country.
Talking about internal, go ahead.
So for me, yes, we didn't wish that we would be forced to make a decision between Professor Ampofo, the chairman, the current chairman, and General Secretary Aisha Ibrahim. We didn't wish to make that decision of who will take the front row. But having been forced into that position, we will make a decision. We will assess them individually and make a decision. And that's the decision will be made on Saturday.
Having spoken about internal mechanisms to resolve some of these issues, Broja Jemfi, who lost elections this weekend, says he's going to court. Ampofo has also alluded to that fact that there are internal mechanisms. Do you know whether that has been set rolling already?
There definitely are internal mechanisms within the NDC in resolving issues that happened in Cape Coast. Every party will set out mechanisms, and sometimes the courts recognizes the attempts of a political party to set out conflict resolution provisions in their constitution and might direct the candidate or the person who has petitioned the court to first of all exhaust the internal mechanisms of the party. And so there definitely are internal mechanisms in the party aimed at resolving.
Has that been set in motion?
What we must all be working towards, elections must always be transparent credible, and officers put in charge of conducting the elections to be accountable. Now, when the elections are fair, transparent, they definitely will be credible. And when they are credible, they engender acceptability from all parties. And so as a party, I think learning from the lessons of Cape Coast, we should endeavor, first of all, to look at our register carefully and ensure that only those who are entitled to vote do vote. I will even go further to suggest that because our register does not contain pictorial evidence of people, delegates who appear on Saturday to vote must come or should be allowed to be identify themselves before they are allowed to vote, so that we stem any attempt by anybody to say that those who participated in the voting process were otherwise not entitled to do so. And so, yes, the contest will be fierce. The margins might be close. The emotions will be high. People's egos will be bruised. But in all that, we should be guided by the fact that this is a democratic exercise intended to choose the leadership of the party for election 2020 and beyond.
And certainly how you handle what happened in Cape Coast would also help in dealing with what you're saying at the bigger elections. And I'm asking, as a senior member of the party, you've seen attacks on the persons of people. I don't want to mention names, but you've also heard Broja Jemfi, for instance, saying he's going to court. Do you know whether the party has set in motion? Has there been at least a meeting to put the two of them sit them down and actually start talking about this to prevent him from going to court?
I'm presently not aware of any formal structure or formal engagement within the party to try to reconcile. What I know is that individuals within the party have spoken to the parties to tone down and not distract the NDC from the bigger picture and from the impending elections on Saturday. And that some matters are better left with the heart and buried in the stomach than spewed out in public. And so, and I was greatly encouraged when I heard the communications officer of the party on the network, on a certain network today. I think that all parties must cease fire. We have a bigger fight. We are going for a leadership contest. Let's focus to get the things right, and then we can calm down. Because whatever happens, for instance, the elected youth organizer of the party and the communication officer who is going unopposed are going to sit in the same functional executive committee meeting to take decisions for the party. They are going to be part of the National Executive Committee meeting, which is a larger expanded group of the party. And so it's better for them to begin to look at ways of cooperating for the interest, for the larger interest for the party, than bickering on matters which have been settled, because the Opariado has been elected. I mean, until the court otherwise pronounces otherwise, he's a youth organizer. And so that one is gone. Let's not concentrate on that. The flaws of the elections provide a learning ground going forward. Let's not concentrate on that, and see how we can put in place systems to ensure that we have an incident-free elections on Saturday, that all parties who will take part in the elections will accept the outcome of the elections graciously, and those who will win will win with magnanimity.
Mr. Nusaf Hussaini, I'm grateful for your time this evening, and I wish you all the best Saturday for your elections. Dr. Asa Asante, I'm so grateful that you joined us. This is a conversation that has just started. Saturday is the big day. Where to stay for all the updates is on your election headquarters. And trust JoyNews. We've done it before, we'll do it again. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of our program.